kind of, sort of. Even though I was also like, ooh, but speed puzzles that I now know how to solve.
Gotcha.
But how far of it are you? How far in it are you?
I just got the morph ball.
Okay, yeah.
So I feel like I got a good chunk left because there's there's definitely more Emmys left in there that I've taken out. And those things, every time I go into an Emmy zone, I get stressed out. I'm like, ugh.
That's why they're there.
They're scary.
That's why they're there.
They're perpetually terrifying.
Good.
But I like that that's one of the things I really appreciate about that game is like no matter how powered up you get, anytime you have to deal with one of those things, it's always scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's never easy, and even when you have the weapon that can kill them, it's still not easy.
Yeah, you just have to get to a good spot every time, and usually by the time I've run up and through the area trying to avoid enemies and whatnot, I'm like, okay, cool, I know exactly where I need to stand to kill this enemy.
Yeah, I know. It's like I know where to stand, but I still gotta stand there and aim at it forever while it's approaching me, and then I gotta make sure I shoot correctly before it kills me. It's never just a simple done and done process.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do a review of the game after I finish it because it's just a solid game.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Or I guess I should say I really enjoyed it, past tense.
Yeah. But I feel like it's got replayability value because I was worried about how short it is, but now as I'm playing it, I'm like, I would play this again pretty quickly.
Yeah, which is exactly what I did. I played once I beat it, I was like, well, I'm playing it again. Don't mind if I do.
Don't mind.
All right.
If I do.
Howdy, folks. Hope you all are doing well. We got the whole crew on.
Up.
Taryn asked, "Are we starting with throwback games then?"
Sure, why not? Because I gotta go early.
Oh, what's your throwback gonna be for the week?
Yeah, and I can tell you that real quick. It's gonna be Star Fox 64. You know why? Because the Nintendo Switch Online is coming out with the update tonight, and I'm gonna go download the stuff, and I'm gonna play Star Fox 64.
You would.
In the spirit of nice, it's true. It's a good game. In the spirit of the conversation that we were just having, I'm going to recommend Super Metroid. Fantastic game. I feel like Super Metroid is probably one of the most fondly looked back upon Metroid games, aside from maybe Metroid Prime, depending on how old you are.
Really, Metroid in general has come out with this almost nothing but bangers.
Yeah, really. Every game slaps.
Oh, that's every game.
Except for Metroid 2, fine, okay.
Okay, I'm just, I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah, Metroid 2 is a bad game. It's not very good. Blah, blah, blah. Good. But it came out on the Game Boy.
Yeah, that's my main contention. I honestly think if you could, update it.
I thought they did update it, because Return of Samus came out, and it's awesome.
But there's also... So they also canceled... they also sent a cease and desist to somebody who already made a really good Metroid 2 game, which was comically called Another Metroid 2 Remake, because everybody and their grandmother remakes that game, because it sucks. But, also, it's a game that came out on the Game Boy. Not the Game Boy Color, not the Game Boy Advance, not the SD, the SP, or the DS, the Game Boy. So, limitations being what they are, when you try to make a Metroid game without a map, it kind of goes how you might expect.
I didn't know it didn't have a map.
It did not have a map. Basically every remake of that game was like, yo, here's a map. And it's like, thank you.
You can't play Metroid without a map. Any of them.
With great difficulty.
Legit. I doubt the save file is still on there. I bet it's deteriorated by now. Who knows? But if I were to load that back up, it's probably still a frustrated Kenneth that's stuck in some area that's like, that's the reason I set this down, because I couldn't find my way out of it.
I mean, to be straight up, even I've played the popular Another Metroid 2 remake, Another Metroid 2 remake. AM2R is the abbreviation. Yeah. I've played that one, and just fundamentally so stylistically, for those who haven't played Metroid 2, what you're doing is you're not running around collecting upgrades like you usually do in a Metroid game, but instead you're running around to seek and destroy. I think it's 30 Metroids or something like that. You don't know where they are, you just gotta find them and then kill them. And the formula is fundamentally not fun, or not what I want from a Metroid experience. So even with the remake, I'm still like, I don't think I've ever finished any Metroid 2 remake, just because fundamentally I don't find the core game loop fun. It's a run and do a thing 30 times, and I'm like, okay, this was cool the first 10, and now I'm tired. But yeah, what about you, Kenneth? What's your throwback?
I'm going to the SNES.
Oh.
And I recently got a cartridge of Super Castlevania 4.
Yo, Super Castlevania 4 slaps. I also have that on Super Nintendo.
So
I think I got it at the garage sale.
Nice. Yeah, and I've got my... I always forget the name of this thing. My Super Retro Trio. I'm going to play it on, so I can play it through HDMI on my TV. Yes.
I feel like you are showing it to the camera, and I would like to remind you turned off your camera.
No, I am not showing it to the camera. I just went to double check the name. Sorry.
Just making sure.
Yeah. If people couldn't tell, that's part of the technical issues we had today. It's my camera on my desktop decided to just...
Whip, wop, wop.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, Kenneth is not Nerd Sam the Eagle, so... But he could be.
Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Get wrecked.
Get wrecked indeed. Well, let's get into the news. Maybe if I can find the news here somewhere. Yep. So we're going to start with our quick hits. And it's been so we were off last week, and we're gonna move because we're gonna get through some stuff. But but the quick hits, Dune was officially released in the North American box office and on HBO Max to stellar reviews, adding another hefty haul to its total box office. Venuave's sci-fi passion project was already released internationally in several markets, but it made $41 million this weekend, which has been the highest for any HBO simultaneous release, while adding to its worldwide box office of $221 million.
Good for them.
Not a bad start.
Yeah. Have you guys seen Dune?
I haven't yet. I want to watch it.
You know what?
I mean, of course, I know you have. Kenneth, the movie reviewer. As somebody who has not seen Dune in any form or fashion before, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I'm writing a review about things they should have updated. Like there's some like this is not necessarily only Dune's fault, but there's some tropes in there that are like using a character's weight to show greed. It's like that's an old trope. It's like we can stop doing that. Mm-hmm. But then there's ones like because Dune is in that weird spot of being old enough to where a lot of sci-fi book lovers claim it as one of the biggest ones, but it also means that everyone took from it before a good film version. It's the same problem as like John Carter Goes to Mars. Like everyone's like, well, this seems I've already seen this 100 times. Like, yep. Because they pulled it from John Carter, and now when you try to do a John Carter adaptation, it's old hat. Yeah.
A friend of mine and I were talking about that very same thing because neither of us have ever seen or read any Dune IP stuff. So we were speculating like, why is it so big? And it's because because this was probably one of those like genre defining things that came out when it came out. But since then, everybody's already taken pieces from it and expounded upon it and and done all that sorts of stuff. So when you see it again, it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's just sci-fi nonsense. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I can understand completely why people are not overwhelmed by the experience. So
yeah. I enjoyed it. I would have liked a little bit more spectacle, but I was like, they told me at the beginning of the movie that this is part 1, so I'm like, okay, this is expository exposition razzmatazz. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Word. All right. Wrapping up the weekend, Ron's Gone Wrong made $7.5 million, again against a pretty heavy weekend that still included 007 No Time to Die, which reached $525 million worldwide, and the Venom sequel pushed to $350 million worldwide.
Nice.
Oh,
good movie.
I need to see both of those.
You should.
Mm-hmm. So, also last week, Superman's son, not Superman himself, not that I think it would matter, but Superman's son, Jonathan Kent, comes out as bi, and predictably, the internet loses its shit. It's clear how many people haven't been... What's up?
Yeah, I'm just not surprised.
Yeah.
To me, everybody who... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's clear how many people haven't been reading comics, or this wouldn't have been that big of a surprise. Like, we can take the changes to Harley Quinn, who honestly felt that way from the beginning, a long time ago, or Tim Drake's Robin a few years ago. And not that this should even matter, but it's not even mainly on Superman. Superman is his son in a separate series titled Superman, Son of Jor-El. Like...
I mean, I feel like most of the outrage, to be honest, usually comes from people who don't read comic books.
I also feel like the outrage is from people that, like, really thought it was Clark Kent. Not like most of it, but there's definitely some. I was just like, you guys are reading clickbait titles that say Superman is gay or bi or anything that you were wanting that will clickbait you into it, and y'all
and you
aren't
don't read the
seeing
article.
what happened.
Yeah.
You don't even bother to read the clickbait article, and you're already posting shit about it.
Yeah.
But like whenever like I feel like there's a whole uproar about whatever in the comic book community, I'm like, I know y'all ain't buying these comic books. No, it's like, when's the last time half these people who were writing comments even bought a comic book?
Right.
When's the last time you even went to a Barnes and Nobles, stood in the store, and read the book for free? When? It's like, if you're not even doing that. You're not even doing that. So it's like half the time when I see people like, oh man, blah blah blah, it's like, man, the last time you read a Superman comic book was like 94. Come on. It's like, stop acting like y'all care. Because everybody who reads comic books for is like, oh yeah, good for him. It's like they've been hitting the disc for a while now. So good job.
You know the whole thing that we talk about where what's the term that I'm looking for? There's a term for this, but I don't remember what it is because it slipped my mind all of a sudden for some dumb reason. The whole thing about like the guys in comics who are super buff, they got the tight suits and it's supposed to appeal to quote unquote the male fantasy. They're mad. Maybe. I suspect that this is a portion of it that might not be actually talked about very often, but I suspect that because, like, what is his name? Henry Cavill came out with Superman and was basically that in person. It just appealed to that same male fantasy, and anything that goes against that is subverting their understanding of what Superman is supposed to be without actually understanding who Superman is.
I mean, people. I would say that's definitely a facet, but like also Henry Cavill's like a huge Superman fan, from what I understand. So he was like, "Oh man, I want to look like Superman from OG Superman comics."
Oh yeah, like nothing. This isn't anything against Henry Cavill. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, no.
That also appealed to that. So like
that definitely feeds into it. But alongside that in support of it, people lost their damn minds when Robert Pattinson said, "Hey, I'm not gonna kill myself in the gym to play Batman." They're like, "What?" Yeah, it's like, given that around that same time was when a bunch of people came out to talk about, the bonkers stuff that actors have to do to quote unquote get ready for a role, to like put on 40 pounds of muscle in like within the span of 3 months or whatever. That's a lot of growth. And there's stuff you could do to get that big if you stick to a diet and do your thing. But there's other options too, and I won't say that not everybody does those other options too. But surely it happens because the actors themselves talked about what the community was like, what the expectations were, and the pressure that they were under to do those things and to get extra big and be larger than life and XYZ. So when he said, "I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to play Batman and I'll put the padded muscle suit on and it'll be fine," people lost their damn minds.
Yeah. It makes me think about Christian Bale's transformations. Like how, because he will go so emaciated.
I probably shouldn't say that phrase, but he put himself through the ringer to morph his body so drastically for so many roles. Like he would drop, he would get down to like the low hundreds for a role, or he would bulk up to be super huge, or he would gain a bunch of weight for another role, and that was a consistent thing for him. And like that is not healthy to drastically change your body that greatly within such a short time frame.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be asking actors to do that, just to play a role. Just put on the muscles. Whatever.
It really honestly doesn't... Your body size doesn't tell us anything about that character specifically all the time. Like, it doesn't portray who they are at their core necessarily. Now, I can tell you something about, like, their interests and, like, where they focus some of their disciplines on and things like that. But their core person doesn't have to do with their body size. And that also goes for, like, real people. This is the whole metaphorical lesson in, like, real-life lessons right now. But,
got them. But yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's 2021. Just slap the CGI body over them. And let them act and not put themselves through the ringer in order to be presented as such and such a way, XYZ, whatever. Let people be.
Well, it's time to head to our Cinephile segment for the Cinephiles, and we got some Marvel schedule updates.
Real quick suggestion, because we know that Jerry has to leave soon. Let's do Game Time and then Cinephiles.
Game Time!
Because Jerry has a rant coming.
Yeah.
Jerry's got a rant.
And I agree.
So for the audience who doesn't know what's going on, because we keep switching stuff up, I need to go be a good husband, so I'm going to go do that in a little bit. But being a good spouse is important. Alright, so we're going to scroll down to Game Time, and I'm just going to go straight into the Nintendo rant, because that's what I want to do. So...
The audacity.
The audacity of the fan base! We keep ranting about the fan base, so this is kind of consistently staying true throughout the whole show. So, what's going on is that Nintendo... First of all, let's do this intro. It's Game Time.
Game Time!
Nintendo is coming out today. Nintendo is coming out today with their updated version of Switch Online, which is awesome because now it's going to include Sega Genesis and N64. Which you'd think that people would be pretty stoked about that because now we can play things like Star Fox and Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart and Banjo-Kazooie and, God forbid, Mario Party eventually, but that might destroy any sense of unity we have left in this country. But people are pretty ticked off about it still because the price jumped, which we talked about this before, but like the price jumped from like $20 annually to $50 annually, and you get prorated whatever you have left on your account, mind you. It makes me mad that people are mad about this.
It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's a fantastic deal. People are mad because it costs a lot more. They're like, oh, that's almost over twice as much. Yes.
Yeah, but considering every other service is monthly...
Yeah, like, what is it? If you get an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription per month for a 2-year subscription, mind you, this is with a 2-year discount on it. 2 years. It's still $25 a month.
Pooh.
Like, what? And people are like, yeah, but Nintendo's online sucks. Yeah, I know. But you know what? I can still compete against
and that's why they charge you per year, homie.
Yeah, it's super cheap.
Right.
But also, just because you're playing things online, you're like, well, the lag. Yeah, the lag, nonsense, whatever. I play against ranked Smash Brothers in person, and I don't get completely destroyed by these people all the time, so I don't want to hear it. And I practice online all the time. So, but I don't know. It's 2 more consoles worth of content that you can get even more stuff for eventually. For actually having access to games that you probably can't find in person, and you probably would have to buy a bunch of extra equipment to be able to, 1, get the console to play in the first place, 2, get controllers for it, 3, get the games, 4, get a connecting device that actually adjusts the frame lag rate, because if you try to plug that into a new TV, guess what? It's going to lag and you're not going to be able to play it.
Yep.
Like, I could go down a whole...
It's like as a console gamer, frame rate lag isn't a thing that you need to be aware of that often. But when you're going back in time to play, the old stuff, then it becomes an issue. On top of that, Jerry touched on it lightly, but like the cost of getting these games a physical copy is not cheap. Like trying to get a physical copy of Star Fox 64, nah. And as we already know, Nintendo already does things that aren't so great when it comes to preservation of games throughout history. So when they actually do the right thing and they offer you the opportunity to play games, I'll bet it at a slightly increased cost annually.
Annually?
That's not that bad.
Yeah, like...
And I'm not saying they're perfect, but like, let them do the right thing and be happy about it.
I can guarantee you that if you went out and bought all the devices and games and controllers you need to pay, and the stuff that you need to get it connected to your TV to be able to play all these things, in person without the online service, it would cost you more than just paying for the service each year before the next console comes out.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. This is like the dumbest rant because I'm like, think through this and think through your money expenditures here. This is way cheaper than any other way to play this. And people are like, well, emulators are free and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and you don't own the game.
He's like, we're not, I mean, obviously we use ROMs and emulators, so I'm not going to say that we're blameless in that. But it's like, that's not a...
No, we don't.
No, we've never done that.
I'm just saying that's not a defense. Like, you can hate capitalism and a whole bunch of, like, ills all you want. It's like, that's fine. We can have that conversation later. It's like, but as the system works right now, that's not a valid argument against a company offering a... Again, we can debate about the multiplayer experience, but just what they can offer on the online store is usually pretty solid. It's like, so it's asinine. And to downvote the trailer...
As if it matters.
I didn't know about that. That's so...
Yes, I heard about
Nintendo players, like, at all, because people act like children. And not in the good way, because I have 2 kids, and they don't do this.
Well, what else we got in game time?
Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. Here's a good one. So there's a Critical Role video game that's apparently coming out with a possible D&D Wizards of the Coast collaboration. So the CR creative team confirmed in an interview with Variety that the game will be based in the land of Exandria, I think, and is already well into development supposedly. So the Wizards of the Coast confirmed that they're working on a new adventure book with the CR team. Per IGN's named Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep. The book is currently being co-led by the D&D game design architect Chris Perkins, as well as the Critical Role DM Matt Mercer, and D&D Beyond writer James Hayek. I think that's it. The book itself will take players on an adventure inspired by the campaigns from the web series, and is the first of its kind to be set in Critical Role's world of Exandria. So folks who are super duper into Critical Role, and who've always wanted to, have that experience of being at that kind of table or being in that kind of world, it looks like you'll be able to pretty soon.
Yeah, that's a lot of good content. We got the show, got a video game on the way, and a D&D book. That's pretty nice.
And I like I like that there's this synergy that's going on though. Like, they're like, hey, this is the opposite of what happened with Super Metroid. So it's not
right. For real.
So these people came up with this really cool project, and the folks that own D&D are like, that's a really cool project. Maybe we should work with them and do more cool things and give them the ability to create even bigger cool things.
Yep.
And
what a great idea.
Wins. Everybody wins.
Oh wow, these people are playing our game, and it's really popular. It's bringing more people to playing our game and buying our books and buying our content and having a good time. Let's make a video game with them, and then we'll all make a bunch of money.
Now we can't have that.
And you save time on trying to find voice actors for your stuff. You've already got them. That's time. Time's money.
Yep. Easy peasy. And you get the added hype of an already existing IP that people already are invested in and enjoy on a however frequent basis.
Yeah, half your marketing is done already. There's no way anybody loses here.
I see this as a complete win.
All right, Professor Hulk.
Oh man.
So the new DC fandom trailer confirms that Gotham Knights will be focused on fighting the Court of Owls.
Ooh.
However, I'm a little confused because apparently Warner Brothers Montreal confirmed the story is not connected to the Arkham series, even though, quote, the game story will take place in a period of decline for Gotham City after Batman's death. That time he died in Arkham Knight.
Spoiler alert!
Look, if they ain't played... Come on.
Yes.
Look, I'll just edit a giant spoiler alert into the video afterwards.
4 games.
But have it rotate into the screen like the old Adam West Batman logo.
Okay, yes, but I'm going to use a recording of you guys doing that to do it.
Nice.
There you go.
Shooby doobly doo.
Pow!
But really though,
I am excited about that game now.
You said you are? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
But also, why would you just not connect the plot? Like, if it synergizes... Well, okay, we assume it synergizes. Maybe it doesn't. So I
guess, like, sometimes if you... I understand not doing it, because sometimes you have so much, like, lore inertia that, like, it's just easier to be like, look, like you know, within the realm of comic books, we've already established, like, you can just, like, slide to the left when it comes to establishing, like, a new universe of stuff and be like, oh yeah, this is everything happened that's exactly the same except for this right here and parallel universe. And so, like, sometimes it's just easier to be like, oh yeah, it's, like, real similar to that, but, like, not a lot. And what are the differences? The differences are whatever the fans find there to be different, because I don't feel like checking the lore.
We literally just got done watching a show where that exact scenario was the premise of the entire show.
Nice.
So, I'm just saying.
It's easy.
DC, what if?
Get out. Get out. Next up, for Stardew Valley fans, Haunted Chocolatier is the next game from Stardew Valley creator Eric Rome. Announced the latest game last week, dropped a trailer showing you as a chocolatier living in a haunted mansion as you go for the game, creating different types of chocolates, and carries a lot of design aesthetics from Stardew Valley. So if you're familiar with the feel of that game, this is very, very akin, spiritual successor to Stardew Valley.
Nice. Stardew Valley is really, really good, and I played it and beat it to near 100% completion before multiplayer came out, and I've just never been motivated to go back and play it with friends. And my friends are always like, yo, we're gonna play Stardew Valley, do you want it? No. Or better yet, like Steve Rogers is like, no, I don't think I do.
I cannot, I must not, I will not interfere.
Yeah, really.
I have no strong feelings about it one way or the other.
That sounds like a cool premise to me, but also, like, depending on how they pulled that off, I feel like it would also give me nightmares. Like, oh, cool, chocolate in a haunted mansion, that's spooky and fun, but also chocolate in a haunted mansion. That's... Ugh.
I just want to eat chocolate without the strings attached to ghosts and paranormal activities. That's so much to ask for.
Yes. the chocolate, yes.
The chocolate. That's like the meme about the guy telling the joke in the kitchen and the toaster starts laughing.
Yeah. So I laugh.
There's no Decepticons here. Ha 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 ha.
I laughed, my wife laughed, the toaster laughed, I shot the toaster, it was a good time.
It's like the chocolatier comes back, mansion's haunted. The rest of town's like, what?
Mansion's haunted.
But mansion's haunted. Peace! Peacing out. I've got to peace out and go be a good husband. So I will catch you guys later, and I will edit these down for the viewers to see and have fun with.
Woo, woo, woo.
Alrighty. See you later, man. Take care.
Hey, y'all too.
But yeah, what I'm imagining is basically a crossover between Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory and the I was going to say Nintendo's Haunted Mansion, Disney's Haunted Mansion, or the ultimate trifecta: Luigi's Mansion, Disney's Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy, mixed with Johnny Depp. Actually, no, mixed with original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, I was like, please. Give me the
I'm like,
Gene
what am I
Wilder.
saying? Gene Wilder. Come on.
Oh, man. Haunted Willy Wonka. I guess they would know it's haunted after that after the tunnel scene. Like, Willy's like,
I mean,
what?
I feel like they probably should have detected that it was at least kind of haunted when all the children started to quote-unquote disappear.
Oh my gosh, that's
what happened to Augustus? He got stuck in a giant pipe, and it's like, is he gonna be okay? And like Willy Wonka's like, I wouldn't worry about it.
I don't know if someone's done this, but someone should re-edit the Willy Wonka trailer in the movie into like, you know how like Mrs. Doubtfire was re-edited into like a horror trailer. I think someone should do that for Willy Wonka.
I'll do you one better. There's a YouTube channel of video editing professionals who edited all of the scenes from original Willy Wonka, wherein the children get stuck in some kind of catastrophic whatever razzmatazz, and they edited them so all the children end up dying, and they made it a much darker film. Because you were like realistically, or I guess pseudo realistically in a fictitious, unrealistic chocolate factory. Probably he made him sign a waiver for a reason.
I mean, yeah, if you get blown up to the size of a massive, almost like the size of a wrecking ball, your body's probably not recovering from that. Yeah. Falling from the egg contraption, getting sucked up a tube. What else? I'm sure I'm forgetting something else. Yeah.
Oh man, but I'll send that to you sometime. Definitely not streamable content.
Well, we can't show that to the fans.
I mean, if you look it up on YouTube, you'll find it. Yeah. But let's. I think that completes the game time. Mm-hmm. So let's kick it back to for the Cinephiles.
Yeah. Marvel has adjusted its theatrical release schedule, while Sony confirms 2 more Marvel flicks. Not sure if we should be excited or nervous about any of it. But the MCU shift moves Doctor Strange to May 6th, so now it will be kicking off the summer. It was previously scheduled for March 25th. Thor: Love and Thunder moves to July 8th, and everything shifts down the line with Ryan Coogler's Black Panther happening sometime in November.
Okay. I mean, for me, like, people sometimes get upset about delays, but if Cyberpunk 2077 has taught us anything, it's that delaying things isn't inherently bad. So if the movies are getting pushed back, like I feel like we're at a point of human existence where we can probably say we all love the Marvel films and we want them to be good. So if they need to be delayed, that's okay.
Yeah. It's like, it will be all right. But Taryn's upset, naturally. I get it. They moved it off their birthday of March 25th. So,
aww.
That would have been a nice Marvel treat on that day.
Sad reacts only.
Yeah.
But still, happy birthday.
Still happy birthday.
On March 25th.
When we get there. Meanwhile, over at Sony, they've announced 2 Untitled movies for 2023 on June 23rd and October 6th, respectively. But nothing else has been greenlit in a while, aside from the upcoming Mobius film that releases in January, and Kraven the Hunter, which already has a tentative release date. So this could possibly be a Venom 3, but it seems like that'd be a really quick turnaround to be able to get that out.
Yeah.
And even for a Spider-Man film, that also seems like a quick turnaround. So it could be some of the other Spider-Man related properties that are going to get spun out.
Mm-hmm. I really, really hope they do, because they keep alluding to it with the name. How do I describe this at all without... I mean, Venom is still out. Has it been 3 weeks since Venom's been out? Because that's my time frame.
Yeah, it's been a month.
These aren't major spoilers, and I won't reveal anything that's critical. But they do often use the name Lethal Protector in the movie, and they did it in the first one as well. If you're not familiar with what that name means, there's a run of comics called Lethal Protectors, which is at least for me, one of the more iconic Venom stories, wherein basically Venom, long and short of it, his symbiote gets cloned, and it creates a bunch of other symbiotes used for quote unquote nefarious purposes, blah blah blah. I hope they do that story because it's a great Venom story. They did the Cletus Cassidy razzmatazz. I really wish they plot stuff. But I'm excited for any new Venom IPs stuff coming down the pipe, and also expansion for Kraven the Hunter, which I didn't actually know about, which I think would be pretty cool. I'm curious to see how that will tie into the Sony SU?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that it will, but and it makes me think of what other Spider-Man world villains could they pull into their own universe? That would be well fitted.
Yeah,
I don't know. I have to think about it more.
Which symbiote did we get in the first movie? Was that Riot?
Yeah, that was Riot. Riot is basically black Venom or light blue Venom. It depends on who's drawing him.
Exactly. Because he gets an anti-Venom.
I don't think, as far as I understand, because I haven't actually read those comics where anti-Venom shows up, I think that's a derivative from Venom. But I'm not. But don't quote me on that. I am not at all sure. I'm not at all sure.
I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm sure we'll get some kind of announcement because that's close enough to where you've got to tease out who's getting, like, you should be working on the scripts and who's going to be doing those dates pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Coming up next, we have Disney Plus is creating an anime series based on their own mobile game? ? So, based on the Japanese smartphone game Disney Twisted Wonderland, the series features several Disney characters split into magical training schools / dormitories. Collider reports, quote-unquote, Black Butler manga creator Yana Toboso is credited with the game's concept, scenarios, and character designs. A manga adaptation was created and released on March 18th of this past year, titled Disney Twisted Wonderland: The Comic, episode of Hearts Labu. So many titles. It was written and directed by Wakana Hazuki, and illustrated by Sumire Kawano. It's unclear if the anime will pull elements from the manga adaptation. But Disney also adds additional anime options in the Tatami Galaxy, Black Rock Shooter, Darnfell, and these are just some other mobile game IPs. But basically, the long and short of it is, for the, I guess more so for the Japanese market, they've developed like their own. Basically Wizard 101, Disney Toontown combo universe.
That's the description.
That's pretty much what it is. And they're gonna get an anime, which I think is kind of neat that they're expanding it in that way, especially for the Japanese market, and probably because it's an anime, they might get more people in the US who will be interested because of that, and then I'm playing the game.
So that nice little feedback loop.
Mm-hmm. If you make the anime, they will come. If you make the game, they will come.
So one thing I want to clarify. So the anime that were listed below, I didn't have time to determine whether those are. So they're not games. They're going to be new shows added to Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if they're already IPs that exist, and like Disney's just adding them from Japan, because they just didn't ring a bell for me immediately on. Like I've never heard of those, and it contains that mouthful of text. We're just like, yeah. Black Rock Shooter Downfall. Like,
hey, we didn't quite have enough detail where I'm just like, these are just all nonsense worries, everybody. You get the gist. There's stuff coming out.
There's stuff coming out. All right. Continuing coming out on Disney Plus, though, we all know the Marvel Hawkeye series is coming out soon. It's got a very Christmas feel to it. And in keeping in tradition of what happened with WandaVision, they are releasing the first 2 episodes on the premiere date.
Nice.
And I think that will have the series conclude right at the week of Christmas, so probably helps them avoid that dead week right there in between Christmas and New Year's that week. Because releasing anything during that time period is not a great. Not a great idea. Like, everything that's released before it, people still have attention to it, and they might go back and rewatch. Like, movies and stuff that are coming out before that date, people may not watch The Matrix on the 22nd, but they might watch it during that time period and stuff like that. But that's going to be a crowded end of the month. So
I am hyped for The Matrix. I'm gonna watch all 3 of the movies. I'm gonna replay the Path of Neo. I'm set. Lore people ain't gonna be able to say nothing to me.
I probably shouldn't say that I've already redone all the watchable components.
Animatrix.
Yeah, and I might have started Enter the Matrix, but I will need to confirm nor deny. Of course, that's going to be a exercise in patience, and if you've played it, you know why I'm talking about it. You should just not do that. You should just go take Steve's example and just play Path of Neo.
It's the best. It's the best Matrix game.
Yeah, there's videos of the stuff from Enter the Matrix on YouTube, so you could just watch those instead of doing what I'm going to do.
I mean, to be fair, there is that section of the Path of Neo with the giant ants that I always forget about because I just blocked it out of my mind, and then I get back to it and I'm like, oh yeah, they really put this in here.
It's like, they did this. They thought this was a good idea. Something that is a good idea as we move into Check the Tech. 2 weeks ago, we talked about the fuel options on Google Maps, and I got to play around with it a little bit this weekend, moving around in Chicago. And it works fairly easy, fairly well.
Sorry, just a quick footnote. One thing that I actually like about it is that even if you don't select it manually, it'll still tell you if your current route is the best option. Similarly, this weekend we did a bit of traveling, and there were a bunch of times where it was like, oh hey, the most efficient, the fastest route is also the most efficient route, so you're good to go.
Yeah, so I suspect a lot of times some of it will line up pretty well there, but I think this could be very beneficial. And I had noted the last time we talked about it, it reminded me a lot of Gas Buddy.
Gas Buddy's great.
Yeah, because you can kind of plug in your route and see how you're doing or what stops you need to make. And it had it had EV options and what was the flex fuel? Yeah. So if you knew if you had a rental car that had the flex fuel, the high ethanol cars, you could put that into Gas Buddy as well. So they don't necessarily. I don't remember if well, I wasn't looking for that because I wasn't driving. I got a car, but I wonder if they'll add that kind of functionality in there. And then the only thing I guess for electric is just so many of those cars already have their own platform for that or development for it that you haven't needed. But since this has been pushed into Google Maps, that would mean that over time, if more electric cars use Android Auto, this would be an option they'd be able to put into it, like as far as that electric efficiency. So I would not be surprised if we see something like that in the future.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty cool tool. Having played with a little bit, I also agree. I like having the option. I like knowing and being able to make an informed choice.
So this one is. I still got to see more of what the features are going to be, because right now the things that are confirmed is like a change to the look of how Waze will talk to you, along with a Spotify playlist. But in a partnership with meditation app Headspace, Waze is trying to do a collab that will hopefully help reduce stress that comes from sitting in traffic or in your daily commute. Is
it called listening to music while you drive? So what it sounds like is that if you use the Calm app or different things like that, it'll basically give you an option to queue that inside of Waze, so that takes you one less integrate. Like that way, you don't have to pull the app up; you can keep it inside of Waze, and it will offer some of those like meditations or those breathing exercises while you're driving through the Waze app. That way, again, so that you're not distracted, and hopefully help reduce your tension and stuff as you're sitting in traffic. Been waiting to get home for 30 minutes and you're still in bumper to bumper. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Hang on, give me 1 second. Please continue without me. Somebody seems to be at my door, which is weird.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to jump down to... No, here we go. Everyone's got... Let's do it like this. Alright, I'll take over the main screen for a moment. Yes, you can hear my beautiful disembodied voice, folks. So Amazon has acquiesced to worker demand inside of their offices regarding their return to office policy. We had previously reported about 2 months ago that Amazon was really looking to bring a lot of their employees back sometime in the year, but they've recently approved a more lenient or a softer office policy regarding telework, which is really good news for folks that may be immunocompromised and will need to continue even after the pandemic starts to get better. May still need to work from home and a variety of options as well. So, and we've been on top of a lot of tech companies that have been having a variety of opinions and options on telework as it got closer and closer to offices reopening. So glad to hear that from Amazon. But one thing that's very interesting in Congress happening right now. Members of Congress have accused Amazon executives of possibly misleading or lying to their antitrust committee about their business practices, specifically about third-party data and how it is sold and or how that's brought up in search results. And that will bring Amazon back to the Hill to give a better explanation and provide more evidence on what they meant by their data practices and how third parties have access to that, which would be a pretty big committee meeting. So something Bezos had told him last year in the committee was that the company doesn't allow employees to use data from individual sellers to bolster its own product lines, though couldn't guarantee that the company hadn't misused such data, which is not exactly comforting to hear from a large data collecting company like Amazon. So yeah. And we got Steve back.
Hey, I'm good. I got ding dong ditched.
The audacity.
It's to be expected this close to Halloween. I'd be a little upset if nobody did it. I guess it's in the middle of a pandemic. It's better than there's somebody being somebody at my door. So hey.
Yeah, that's true.
I prefer that there actually be people who are not there and don't want to talk to me. Where we at?
I just wrapped up Amazon, so folks will definitely keep you abreast of that because there's some more. I would not be surprised if we start getting. We've been having antitrust rumblings for Amazon, Google, and Facebook, and Apple for a while. I am not going to be shocked at all if the result of this upcoming probe into Facebook and Google, which I would love to report it on, but we just need a little more time to pull information on that. But there's some more collusion as far as like how data is handled on the web between those two companies that was brought to light this past week. We just talked about the Amazon issue, not really having accountability for how their third-party companies are handling data that they pull from customers. I am not going to be shocked if we see a bigger push. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say broken up because I would be surprised if they're able to pull that off.
I also agree. I don't think that these companies are going to be like they're not a service like in the way of like Ma Bell, something like that. Like they're not in some way you could argue that they are, but like they don't operate the same. They don't have like a tactile component that's like served that could be utilized by other stuff. It's just that they're just a big company and we don't like it.
Well, I mean, like I would say that big has reached into so much of the American life that we have to address it. So breaking it up just legitimately may not work because it just wouldn't do then you might effectively just kill the service. It's like, but you got to have some kind of regulation of how it's.
I don't think it necessarily kill the service, but I think for the way that they operate, in that you have this cross integration between so many different services. I think that facet may be something that will be what's the word I'm looking for? Dissolved. So maybe you have. Like Facebook and Instagram and I think they don't own Twitter. What's the other one? They own something else.
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp.
Is it WhatsApp or Snapchat?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Okay, but yeah, like the combination of those three and like how they integrate together, like maybe that interplay of data can't be allowed to happen. Because effectively, as you start, I'm trying to think of like non-computer science jargon to use. As you start to meld those data collections together, it for one thing also proposes a security risk, because now you have, like, Facebook has access to data that's in the other two applications and vice versa, possibly. And if a malicious individual can get access to one, then it stands to reason that they would possibly have access to all three. So it's a really difficult problem to both identify and solve, because basically the crux of it is you're really big and I don't like it. But like that has to boil down to some meaningful, actionable thing of right. You're really big and I don't like it, so let's resolve it by doing blank because we want to do whatever. And like you have to figure out like what do you want to do, and then do you think that will solve what problem you go to set out? And for everybody who I think observes this issue, we all have a different perspective of what we want to happen and what we think will solve that problem or will lead to that resolution. And I think as just tech people looking at it, it's really hard to figure out where it could go, because I'm not sure what they want the resolution. People who understand the problems a lot better than I do. I don't really know what they want the resolution to be. So it's really hard for me to guess of what it would look like.
Well, I know we got a few other tech things to run through, so I'll say this briefly because I know we're going to come back to it probably in coming weeks. But I know we got a few Facebook things to say at the end. And I praised our senators and Congress members for the right to repair, but I also think that was a simple thing to understand. It was even though there was a lot of lobbying from Apple and different tech companies to try to like push back against that. At the end of the day, something fundamentally resonated there of like, why can't you repair your own things?
Yep.
And it's like, and if consumers are showing an ability to be able to repair these things, and it's not a high level complexity as they were making out, then what are you actually losing? So I think that helped. It was like very tangible, clear, like make the things accessible.
This is a low hanging fruit for a problem to solve.
Yeah.
Real quick, because while you brought that up, for the folks who may not have been present when we brought it up the first time, just a few weeks ago, Steve Wozniak, the Wizard of Woz, the true mind behind the beginning of Apple, made a very short, I guess, blurb. What would it be, like a cameo appearance on a web show on YouTube, where he talked about the right to repair and how simply having the right to repair permits the individual to so much pliability over their own things. And just to briefly talk about it, he talks about being able to go in to a hardware store or an electronics store and get the tools you needed to fix your own television. And that when you bought stuff, the schematics came with it. So if something broke and you needed to fix it, that you had the ability to do so. And how that capability empowered so many people to become, electricians or developers or whatever, and allowed people to innovate so greatly. He specifically mentions how it was because of his knowledge of repairing TVs that he was able to save tons of money rather than buying a fancy computer monitor for his display, to just take a TV and convert it to do what it needed to do. So it's an incredibly, we talk about it of if you, in the context, if you drop your phone, you want to be able to replace the screen or replace the touch sensor or something like that, but it goes well beyond that. For the folks who just want to fix your screen or fix your touch sensor, or the gyroscope on your phone breaks or whatever, and you just want to get it repaired, you should be able to do so. And if that's all you want to do, you should be able to do it. But it's your device and you bought it, and if you wanted to hook it up to, a telescope and have it integrate in some way, and you wrote some software that could have it do something really cool or something like that, like, you should be able to do it. You should be able to take it apart and put it into something else or turn it into something else entirely because you paid for it. Is your money and it's your device.
Exactly.
But yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because you had brought up the right to repair, and we had mentioned it just a few short weeks ago, and it was really like Steve really nailed it. He really nailed it.
Yeah, in the most nerdiest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate
as
that.
Steves usually do.
I like it though. It's good. So this is not surprising. Apple versus Epic continues in the appeal process as Apple asks for the upcoming App Store changes to be postponed. This is not it's not even really a dig at either company. This is expected during any kind of appeal, is that once a judge's ruling comes out from the initial trial, if you're going for appeal, you can ask for a stay of any results that came from the first trial until the appeal process is completed. So this isn't necessarily nefarious or anything by those means. It's just this is a very common legal practice for Apple to do. And basically what it would mean is that the December 17th deadline for allowing apps in the App Store to use their own or to direct to a third-party payment system or to their own payment option would get delayed until that appeal process is done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I don't have anything to add to that. You got it.
Gotcha. All right, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. Is this the
Sally Ride?
Yeah. Yep. Just making sure my cursor is the right space. So, coin collectors, Mom, if you're still listening to the stream, this one's specially ordered just for you. It's not. It's just information. So the first woman in space is getting a limited run, U.S. Mint quarter. Dr. Sally Ride, who was the first American woman astronaut, is getting her own run of a quarter. The quarter depicts Ride staring down at Earth as she was fond of doing during spare moments aboard the space shuttle. The quarters will be issued between 2022 and 2025. The other quarters celebrate similar women who pushed cultural and political boundaries, including Maya Angelou, Wilma Mankiller, Nina Otero Warren, and Anna May Wong, who were... I guess I should go through those if you're not familiar with everybody who this is. Yeah. I skipped the description because I knew who everybody was, but everybody. So Maya Angelou, acclaimed African American writer, Wilma Mankiller, the advocate for Native American and women's rights. Nina Otero Warren, New Mexico suffrage leader, and Anna May Wong, who was the first Chinese American Hollywood star. But they'll all be getting their own quarters between those time frames, I believe.
Yeah. That is a really great group. I think that's a fantastic group.
I was surprised. I was like, oh, cool. I know who that is. Okay, cool. I don't even need to iterate these. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm announcing this. People need to know. Not everybody had my mom tell me who people were. So, oh man.
Do you want to take the next one? Or I'll take the last two.
Yeah. So, okay, this one's interesting. Whoops. Hold up, my cursor just moved. There we go. Twitter adds a removal option that doesn't involve blocking. Also, they found a way to show you more ads. Yay! So, Twitter users usually had to remove individuals by blocking or unblocking, which basically had the same effect. But now there's a specific feature that allows you to just remove stuff / people. Excuse me. It helps avoid the awkwardness that can come from seeing that you've been blocked by a user. Except for I think it's Kojima, who is well known for blocking people from his Twitter page for like doing completely inane things, like asking him a question, and he'll just like post a comment, like a reply to their comment, just blocked. I think it's Kojima.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so while it's technically getting rolled out as an experiment, Twitter will also drop ads into conversation threads after the 3rd and 8th replies. So gotta work that in there. You love to see it.
I mean, imagine if you were in a Facebook thread and you saw ads in the replies of that. Like, that's not.
I mean, I already. I would never do this, but I mean, you can download stuff that automatically removes ads from every page that you go through, and also ones that will specifically do it for Facebook that aren't an app on Facebook, but just a plugin.
Gosh, just reminded me to unfollow everything.
Yeah, I was actually just telling somebody about that this past weekend, actually.
There you go. So I've got some Instagram news and some FCC rules updated. So everyone remembers the Instagram update that happened. So it will notify users. Their plan is to notify users when there's an outage. But most likely what that will mean is a message inside the app that when it can't connect to the server, you'll get a actual error message as opposed to the spinning circles that everyone got. So you actually have an update that it's not able to connect to the server.
Literally, this feature is they're just implementing a timeout.
Yeah.
It's just simply that rather than spin forever, the app will time out and just show you an error message if it can't connect to the server.
Yeah. Which doesn't seem like... I'm just like, but that...
I mean, depending on the complexity of your system, that's a one-line change.
Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know what's going on over there of how they got theirs set up. But when I heard that people weren't even able to get into their desktops and laptops because of how the infrastructure works, it's like, none of y'all had a backdoor or the door. You mean
So I watched a video about the razzmatazz. So what happened was, essentially, how to describe, because there was a cascade of failures. The way that my martial arts instructor often describes it is, airplanes don't fall out of the sky because somebody pushed the drop out of the sky button, but rather a lot of successive things happened, which he usually describes as people not doing their job. A lot of successive failures happened that cause a catastrophic failure, and that was the case with Facebook. So basically, Facebook runs everything through Facebook. So what ended up happening is when the servers went down, basically because they run everything through Facebook, when Facebook goes down, they have no means to contact the proper teams who would normally handle the situation because they don't have any third party discussion tool. So when the server went down, they couldn't contact the server, the external server, which was meant to reboot the server in case of a catastrophic failure, and which it would do automatically, which it couldn't do because it spoke through Facebook's tooling to do it. Nor could they send a message to the manual human being who has access to the, or rather, before we even get to that, they couldn't put in the digital code to get into the building because that also ran through Facebook, right. So they couldn't even get into the space.
Garlox in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they couldn't get a message to the guy who has the physical key to get into the building because that whole messaging system of point of contact also runs through Facebook. So it was like, so this really was a pushed plane fall out of the sky kind of situation. It really is a bad guy self-destruct button kind of thing. It's like, you mean to tell me you got one whole button that just blows up your whole castle? It's like, sure do. Boom. Oh, man. But yeah, it was quite comical. I mean,
but you think you'd have the cell phone numbers or something somewhere? Like,
right.
Hey, just call Phil. Tell him
anybody got his number? It's like, nah, it's like he got a beeper. Nobody got his number.
It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
But on top of that, so going back to why we want to break stuff up, WhatsApp, not a huge deal if you're in the US, but a real big deal if you're outside the US. For a vast majority of people in non-US countries, WhatsApp is the means of communication. And so how everything runs through Facebook. So when Facebook goes down, Facebook goes down, Instagram goes down, WhatsApp goes down. WhatsApp is like the primary means of communication for tons of people in other countries, which if that goes down, like there's people who can't get in contact with their doctors, with their teachers, with their family members, with, tons of other stuff. There's tons of work that needs to get done. It's not just, yes, it is a social tool, but it's a, like globally accepted social tool.
Yeah.
And there's calendars that can't be gotten into, there's meetings that can't be observed, there's details about appointments that can't be reviewed, and tons of other stuff. It's more than just like, oh man, it's just people just can't talk to each other and look at memes on Facebook. It's way beyond that. So going back to that motivation of why you want to break these companies up, that's a big reason. Because if Facebook goes down, every means that you have to contact your friends, if you don't have their phone number, should not suddenly evaporate.
Exactly.
And we all know ain't nobody got a Google Plus, so don't even mention it as a suggestion.
Hey, I like the Google Plus.
Hey, you and every other Google employee.
Look. Yeah. All right. Lastly, on the Instagram front, which really should have been an option a long time ago for a app that purports to use the one. Oh, again, they said they're not really a photo company anymore. So, excuse me, Instagram. But when they were a photo website, professional photographers tend to use, desktop, laptop apps to edit their photos, to shoot on actual cameras. It's not a knock on cell phone cameras at all. The cell phone cameras are great. But if you work with media files from a camera, you probably edit that on a desktop. It would like a way to upload that to your account, except you can't. Or you've had to use third-party means to get around for that. But Instagram has finally added desktop support. Now, you can always look at Instagram on the desktop, but you weren't able to really create posts in the same way. Yeah. And they've now added that on there, which is just...
it's about damn time.
Yeah. That's really all I'm going to say on it. It's just...
Really? It really is. It's like, hey, should we add desktop support? And it's like, like the lead developer's like, why? And then everybody laughs.
Yeah. Our last bit before we talk a little Facebook to close out the night. So another FCC proposal is out there in the ether. So typically when these proposals go out, it's the same thing when we were talking about right to repair or any number of issues, is that the FCC will basically ask for support or ask for input from the various people that it affects or the companies that would be involved with that. Should get consensus on what to do to go forward. So right now, something that's on the docket is spam text. So we've reported a while back about robocallers and ways that they're trying to help mitigate that. But this next proposal will be trying to lay out rules for cell phone companies on how they can block these robotext, spam text, the variety of things. Right now, a lot of phones are getting good at catching a lot of them. So I've noticed on my messaging app, I get constant little red exclamation pop-ups when they think something is a spam, and they've been very accurate.
Yeah, for me, it was like once upon a time they were good, and I would get calls from like Scam Likely or whatever. And I'm like really certain that at one point in time I input a number that kept calling me as Scam Likely, and then I started showing other stuff come up as Scam Likely, so I'm like, did y'all steal this idea from me? Which is only kind of a joke, because I was like, this is my idea. But anyway, like for a time it was good, where I would get calls and they would kind of note them in my phone. It's like, this is probably a scam. And then like at some point, maybe this past year or like the year before, it was just everything got through. Like everything seems to be a legitimate number, to where I either just don't answer my phone at all, or I answer my phone and don't say anything until somebody else says something.
Yeah, it's amazing how much we don't use our phones the way they were originally intended because of the way the internet works now.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame.
I mean, it's not just spam calls that did that, but that's definitely a piece of it.
Yeah, it helped.
All right.
All right. Last topic.
We got a few Facebook updates. And still, there's one. The most obvious, the quickest one is that Facebook's considering a company name change to reflect the variety of products that it provides.
I mean, it's not like rebranding is gonna like get you any points of like, oh no, it was Facebook that did all those bad stuff. This is Bookface.
It's like Spacebook. Yeah. But here's kind of the full court press or PR press that Facebook's trying to do after the whistleblower testimony from the past couple weeks. Facebook had the gall, the audacity. So Integrity VP Guy Rosen posted a defense of the social media network's anti-hate measures, where he argued the declining visibility of hate speech mattered more than the mere existence of that content. He said the prevalence, aka visibility of hate on Facebook, has dropped nearly 50% in the past 3 quarters to 0.05% of content viewed, Rosen said, or about 5 views out of every 10,000. Yeah.
I guess.
Engadget, reading from Engadget's report on this, though. So great job on them for pushing back on this. Because they will admit that there is a degree of truth here. Facebook has occasionally run into trouble for mistakenly flagging content as hate speech. I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I think it's part of the design. But
I agree.
And an aggressive removal system which might lead to further accidents. Likewise, hate will only have limited impact if few people ever see a given post. However, there's little doubt Facebook is engaged in some spin, because Hagen in her testimony asserted that Facebook can only catch a very tiny minority of offending material. That's still an issue if true, even if only a small fraction of users ever see the material.
Mm-hmm.
So, for folks that are may not understand, Facebook may actually be correct when they say they've seen a 50% decrease in the amount of hate speech. But that's assuming
that they're catching all hate speech, which they absolutely are not.
Right, and that's also like, are you including your errors in that number?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you mistagged something as hate speech, or someone
false
tagged something as hate
positives and
speech?
false negatives.
Yeah. So I applaud Engadget for making that comment. There's definitely some spin on those numbers, even if there might be a kernel of truth to it.
Yeah, it's like hate speech is down is probably a most truthful statement. By how much? Is it 50%? Almost definitely not.
Mm-hmm. On the continuing the Facebook bandwagon, or not bandwagon, but
bandwagon?
BAN?
Yes.
They are going to be paying $14 million in discrimination lawsuits. They're just
get wrecked.
So these are these two settlements were related and announced by the Justice Department and Labor Department. These had been filed last December, and oh goodness, it accused Facebook of giving hiring preferences to temporary workers, including those who hold H-1B visas, to let companies temporarily employ foreign workers in certain specialty occupations. Tech companies have been using this for decades now, but oh goodness. Kristen Clark is quoted as saying it represents by far the largest civil penalty the Civil Rights Division has ever recorded in the 35-year history of the Immigration and Nationality Act's anti-discrimination provision. So for folks that are... So basically, it comes into the recruitment practices of Facebook and how they're... it's not that you can't bring in folks on visas and based on the H-1B program. That's not a problem, and that can actually.
That if it gives you, is that if they're looking for that as an indicator of like, oh, I won't hire this person who is a foreign programmer because they don't have one.
Yeah,
that's where it becomes problematic.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I'm glad that. I mean, but that also seems like a drop in the bucket. This goes back to that Amazon fine we talked about in the EU earlier this summer. It's like that's
it's like when you're a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar company and you find somebody like a couple million for like whatever. I'm like, that could come directly out of Zuckerberg's paycheck and it would not change the company at all, because if you find them for doing something, so I mean, I know that often how these things go is it's on a first offense basis. So like the first time that they review it and they'll charge you this much, the next time it'll be twice as much, the next time it'll be twice as much, the next time it'll be twice as much, which like, you know, quickly grows into a size of like, okay, we can't ignore this and do it anymore. But also, you know, as we've seen with like a lot of other companies, banks, when bad things happen, and they're like, "Oh, you guys have to pay, I don't know, $250 million fine." They're like, "All right, fine, that's it, $250 million. All right, cool. I'll pay this. I'll pay you this fine every 5 years if you keep letting me do what I'm doing." And it's like it becomes less of a fine and more just like a fee for operating business of like, oh, cool, like $250 million is like, by doing this thing, we increase profit by like $1.6 billion. So yeah, of course I'll pay you like $250,000 to keep doing this, because that's how they view it. So it's like you gotta find them like a percentage of income cost.
Yeah, it's just we're gonna. I am not ready for the Facebook Google conversation. That's not gonna be fun. But I just, yeah, it's like as much as I want to applaud, it's like I think our government, particularly in the FCC, has been doing a lot better over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I really do want to applaud them for that.
But they got a lot to do.
You know, and you know, as much as the thing that it might exasperate me because I'm like, why is it just so? To your point of having so much to do, I wonder if it's just it feels insurmountable, and you may not have the experts that you need in there. You're also working with, we already said this before, the Congress members that just don't.
They're not literate.
They're not literate in what they need to do, and those are the people that are making financial decisions on your departments and your budgets and what you can and can't do. Mm-hmm. Like it's rough. So yeah, I know I get frustrated.
And digital literacy is critical at like the point of where we are right now. That we're at a massive detriment because of the individuals that we have in our points of leadership, because they aren't literate in the areas that they need to be. Like long gone is it just you just need to know about like financial stuff and your constituents and constitutional stuff, and then you're good. You got to know about across the board, not just when it comes to tech stuff. You got to know about your means of like electronic or like electric and power generation, in terms of being energy conservative. You need to know about the various ways and digital threats that exist, ways that people might misuse technology, because oftentimes we ask ourselves if we can, not if we should. And as somebody who can regulate those things, you have to be the person who understands what it is and what it could mean, so that you can say if someone should or if they can. And the FCC is doing better, but like they're way behind the eight ball. And we've already known that technology grows faster than we can create laws and social construct rules of engagement to regulate it. But there's, as Kenneth said, they have so much to do that this is good job, but get to work.
Yeah. Let's see. Lastly, I suppose this may not be the worst Facebook thing, but it is bad as far as like data.
The data breach.
But they're suing a programmer and the Ukrainian national, Alexander Soncheko, who scraped over 178 million users using a messenger exploit that would allow him to import contacts and using an automated tool that would mimic the look of Android devices and would ping Facebook to send him back data.
Remember I said that whole major data, what's the word I'm looking for? A threat of having all these systems integrated?
Yeah. And again, this is not the largest Engadget. Again, I love you guys. Not the largest such hack, as they report that 53 million users have been. Sorry, that number. Reading again took me back. Hackers had scraped using a similar feature 53 million users using that kind of same methodology.
Oof.
Folks, if you're not password protected, or sorry, not two-factor authenticated, your stuff.
You should probably have been doing it since, several years ago.
And if you haven't changed your password in like the last year,
you should probably have been doing it since like 10 years ago.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of.
If we had a sponsor from NordVPN, this is exactly where the sponsorship from NordVPN would go. Or, in place of it, I'll just make a comment about, you should use a password manager that will automatically generate passwords. Passwords don't need to be hard to remember. They just need to be long. And that's it.
Yeah. Precisely. Yeah, so that was our main. This was a bit of a Facebook update because they've been. We gave an update when they were on Congress. Then we took a break. So a lot had happened since the meetings on the Hill, on top of name change, and then we were talking about Engadget, but I also got to give some props to Wall Street Journal because they have just been on top of it as far as everything that they've been reporting.
Straight up, every week, like they're like, here's what's going down with Facebook.
And it's like, dang, I don't know if their team has just been like, F it. We're coming out swinging. we've been digging into this, and we got a treasure trove. We're just gonna start throwing haymakers.
Hey, at some point, it's like, yo, if you didn't want to be in the news, you shouldn't have been doing suspicious shit.
Yeah,
and mistreating your employees, and shutting down people who are creating applications to research about the effects of Facebook on adolescents and adults. Mental states, and like the list goes on. If you didn't want to be in the news, maybe you shouldn't be doing all of these things literally at the same time.
Yeah. Whew. Well, that's it for the show. That's it for Check the Tech. And
yep.
Yeah,
and that's actually it for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for everything. So
cool. What's going down this week, Kenny?
What's going on this week? We got the Commander Shift Show with Major Tom this Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central, hosted by myself and Major Tom. This week, I'll be wrapping up my thoughts from the Chicago International Film Festival. That's why I was in and out last week. You got a lot of Star Wars news and a bunch of other updates. And we will talk about the tragic death of cinematographer Hanya Hutchin. And her death on the set of Rust, and kind of explain for folks that are just not aware of how prop guns operate in a movie set. Yeah, the fundamental of it on a film set, because there's a lot of people advocating for how the guns should have been handled on the set, and it's like, and again, maybe there is a change that needs to happen for going forward of how actors are used to handling it, but this process, when done correctly, I do have to stress, done correctly, has been very safe on set. So folks have been like, he should have checked the thing. It's like, it's more complicated than that. We'll get into that tomorrow. It's like, but the one thing I'll just say here right now is that when done correctly, this has helped. This has been fine. They don't have to be gun experts or nuts and things like that. You have a person on set that knows what they're doing, comes in, brings it, So, but
they're the person that's paid to be there, whose expertise is meant to keep everybody safe.
Yeah. Cool. So that's what's going on Tuesday.
Yeah, and then coming up, we have The Rundown with Taryn Bell, hosted by Taryn. It's the weekly recap of all the nerd topics that don't fit neatly in any of our shows throughout the week, and it gets you ready for the weekend. And that'll be coming out pre-recorded on Friday.
Yeah, and it's going to be... we got for a lot today, and we'll get for a lot tomorrow. Movie news. Taryn's still going to have a lot.
It's been a busy chunk of time.
Yeah. And actually, so on Thursday night, the Quorum will meet at 7 p.m. We are going through Cowboy Bebop. We took a break last week. Yeah, super excited. It's been a lot of fun. We do have a lot of episodes to go through this week, so episodes 4 through 11. That's to help us keep on our schedule. So definitely, if you have time to watch those this week, definitely dive into that and join us on the Quorum. And you can check on the Nerd Union website for the schedule, so you can see when we're watching this. And I forgot to add on here, Red Shirt Rejects is this week. It is our last film in the series of Star Trek films that we've been watching. It is Star Trek Beyond. It's been a long time. It's been a lot of fun, but that'll be Kyle Nelson and Trevor Law Thursday night after the Quorum airs, so that's at 9 p.m. Central, doing Red Shirt Rejects.
Nice. Cool. We also want to give a shout out to our Patreon supporters. You guys help us finance all of our cool shows and let us do these cool engagements just like these. We want to give a shout out to Shelby Johnson and Doug Schumann. Thanks.
Woo, woo, woo.
Cool. So with that, thanks for joining us tonight. Remember to subscribe to our Twitch, our Facebook, and our YouTube channels for our live shows and our upcoming video series on movies, games, and more nerd content. With that, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See y'all next time. I will have a camera. I will have a face. Promise.
I would have if you had more time and we didn't have a technical difficulty, I would have said like get a whole bunch of like pictures of yourself and just of different emotes and use those throughout the video.